All right, we should be live here. See if we got anybody in. Yep, all right, we got some folks in here. Sounds good. We'll get started then. We'll get started. Um, so yeah, I had to wake up a little bit earlier this morning, so with no stream last night. But here's a take a look at the radar loop from today. What's been going on with Fiona is I was slightly right because I don't know if we had a technical landfall. I think we tech right over the southwest corner. I'm sure that will get reevaluated in the once we get to the hurricane off season. But it just takes a little bit of time over. And some of these hurricanes can just it doesn't take a lot of time. It does not take a lot of time, and it got going. It got in the right environment. Sheer uh, lesson just enough, and then it was able to take off. As you can see, went all the way from 60 quickly from 60 miles an hour to an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane. But the biggest story about this storm is not going to be the winds, and it hasn't been the winds. It's been the rainfall. It's been the rainfall is what's made this storm so prolific. If we um, take a look back here, let's see, show you. I mean, look at these rainfall totals here. We've got, 24 inches, over 2 feet of rain in south central Puerto Rico. That's a ridiculous amount of rain, and we're not done yet. Well, we are not done yet. I usually go through radar scope, but I'll show you even. Hopefully something decent. I'm trusting in AccuWeather. It's a dangerous situation. Please. No, I didn't ask for that. Oh no. No, 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 no. Here we go. Boom. There we go. Eh, it's like part simulated, but we can see here over Puerto Rico, this training rain bands that have been going over the country. This has just been throughout the whole day. I mean, I'll show you the radar loop from earlier. It's like, no, don't go into the future. Don't do that. We don't need to see that. Future cast is the worst thing. But you can see these training rain bands that have been happening over the state. They've just been prolific. I mean, already 2 feet. I mean, some places in Puerto Rico could potentially see over 3 feet of rain. This is the kind of situation we're talking about here. It's just that devastating because they have terrain. The terrain in Puerto Rico is a big thing too. They have mountains over the central part of the state that we can run off and mudslides. That's a really big problem that's going to be happening for Puerto Rico over the next couple of days. Along with that, they're trying to they're gonna have to be worrying about flooding while their whole electrical grid is down. They're 100% out. Um, oh, hate no. Take a look here. Puerto Rico, the whole state is without power. Zoom out a little bit. I mean, they have over 1.5 million customers tracked, and I think the number is like over 3 million residents, and they're all out. They're all out without power. Every single county without power, 100% without power, which is a significant problem. Significant problem because they're trying to get all this, all these problems fixed, and yet there's still nothing. There's still nothing that they can really do right now. But I guess now our attention will shift to the Dominican Republic. where you can see it kind of they're trying to take over part of it with like simulated radar. Um, but you can see the core still kind of. I'll just play it over 3. Yep, there we go. You can see here on a satellite that it's close to a landfall. It's been pushing west. We've seen this westward movement. It headed up into the western part, the very southwest tip and corner, and then it kind of slid off the coast, and it's been doing this. And we even had a little bit of southwest jog to the point now where it's right here. See, I mean, we've seen something like this. It came up, uh, and then it kind of slid out, and then it almost did one of these where it slid here. A little bit of a west southwest jog, and then we'll probably see something like this. That's probably what we see, unless if it goes like this, if it stays through land all the way through here, that would have major implications in the forecast track. I'm not sure how long this is going to last for, this west southwestward movement, or just due west in general. But it's definitely going to have implications on the future track of this storm. The good news about this is U.S. impacts are have a very low shot of happening. I'm not going to rule it out because I'd be an idiot to just put that on myself and say there's no shot. There technically is a shot, which I'll go into in a second. You know, I'd say Bermuda is a concern. The Bahamas still have to be watched for. Turks and Caicos, they'll definitely have to monitor the storm. So we can't quite rule. It would be far eastern Bahamas, but those two regions are still places that are going to have to keep an eye on this. But the big story is this rainfall. I mean, you can see this convection is not going anywhere. It's just continuing to fire up. We got training rain bands just sitting over the state of Puerto Rico. It's a little bit. I saw a tweet earlier this evening, not too long ago. It's called it Harvey Light, basically. Um, it's um, not quite, the power of Harvey, but you combine that with the training rain bands we have and the PWAT values, which are still ridiculously high. Maybe not quite Harvey like, but still ridiculous. Probably close. Honestly, I'd have to check again. And then we also have the terrain with the mudslides. That is what's going to make this really dangerous over the next couple of days. I'd be shocked if we don't see people die from this. That's just the reality. The infrastructure and with the electrical grid down, there's probably and given the just the area down there, they're not going to be able to get the recovery time as well. They're not able to react on the fly, as good as a lot of the U.S. states are, which is sad because they are part of the U.S. So we want to get them the best help they can, but at the same time, they don't have the infrastructure, the electrical grid, etc., to be able to handle these kind of events as good, and which is something we will need to improve on for the future, without a doubt. But we'll take a look here at the short term track. Again, I was talking about it a little bit already, but I'm not sure how much models are accounting for this. It seems like they have to an extent, but even then, the GFS, we'll have to watch. It does. GFS has this barely going over landfall. I'll get into I like Vort better. GFS barely has this going over land. Look at the track. If we play this out, no, that's not where it is. GFS already has this on land by 2 a.m. It looks, I wouldn't say on land, but really, really close. And I just don't think, I don't know if we're that close yet. I don't know if we're that close. Don't, don't. Okay. Let me take a look here. The center is cuts off a little bit on this right, but the center is probably right around. Is it right around here? Probably right now. I mean, it's gonna have to take it, and the GFS wants to send it all the way through here. That's a little suspect, in my opinion. It's kind of almost stalled out over the past 20 minutes. To be honest, it's barely moving at all. So I have to imagine we see more of a track like this. Maybe it's able to regain a little bit of forward strength. Maybe right before onshore, it's able to strengthen, and it gets pulled a little bit more, in between or something. But I find it hard to believe that the GFS is accounting for as much of the west, even southwest movement that we've seen over the past, 6 hours, 8 hours or so. It's just kind of been meandering in between. And I think the elevation, Puerto Rico is not as high elevation as some of those mountains on Hispaniola, but I think the combination of it being in between, we've seen that before, where that the winds that come off the mountains and the land masses being in between those can affect the structure of the storm and even the movement of the storm. That's a little bit beyond my understanding. I'm not gonna lie, but it can affect the storm. Um, But yeah, going back to the short term, going back to the track. Actually, I want to slide out one. I think this will be key for Turks and Caicos. If this is, if GFS is not considering the Western movement enough, and we're talking about a hit right here, this is a big, big more. This is a significant more concern for Turks and Caicos. And then from there we play it out. We get to about 60 hours where this thing, the storm will definitely have a good shot at coming a major hurricane as long as it doesn't get impeded, um, but by the elevation of Hispaniola. If it does, if the center does have to get through Hispaniola, it's probably going to weaken to a tropical storm again, potentially even a weaker tropical storm if it has to go through the elevation for a long time. We play this out a little bit more, and then that's when we have to start worrying about Bermuda. Oh, where is that teeny island? Right here. There we go. I mean, that's when the concerns for Bermuda have to start. Even if you don't get a direct hit, if the storm is still west of you, just a little bit, you have to worry about the eastern side of that storm, and then storm surge, the impacts of that, probably outer rain bands, given that this convection has been displaced, not dis, well, it was displaced, but it's more centered on the eastern side of the storm, and it has been this whole storm. And given that, as it will be making its way to Bermuda, we'll have this trough to its west, this little frontal boundary right here. That's going to be pushing this way. You have to imagine convection will be a little bit displaced, probably to the east as well. So if we do see a track just to the west of Bermuda, that will probably put them in a direct path to see some pretty heavy rainfall. Which luckily this storm will be moving a bit faster at this point, but it is something to watch. And then the trough, and as we mentioned, we had to follow that pinwheel. We weren't sure how this is going to play out, but it looks like it's going to pinwheel. Not enough um, to be a massive concern, at least for the moment, for the U.S. I'm not going to completely rule it out because I just I'd be an idiot, if something crazy were to happen, and then I would just say, this could never happen, and then it happens. I've seen a lot crazier stuff happen before. So with that being, excuse me. With that being said, though, it's going to take a lot. It would have to take a lot to see a U.S. impact, and even then, it would probably be like the western edge of or the eastern edge of Maine. So Nova Scotia. Sorry, I don't know what happened to my voice. I haven't even talked a lot today. But the let me take a sip of water. But Nova Scotia will. There we go. It's a little better. But Nova Scotia will have to watch out for this, especially the eastern side of Nova Scotia, because we talked about uh, we talked about earlier. We talked about the Friday, I think Friday night. I think so. Friday and Saturday night we talked about. Oh, we want to go back here. Right, we have this, so it's going to become connected with that trough, but still something we have to watch for. Still something important. We have this little trough right here, and we talked about how it's kind of like was trying to get connected, so it was just being, kind of drawn out. And these will come together eventually. At least we think, yeah. But this little short wave right over here, the strength of that short wave, these can be kind of unpredictable. Imagine it. Imagine like a small storm in the wintertime. They can be these can be kind of hard to predict exactly where, um, how these interact and where these move. It's difficult. It's difficult to exactly predict, and especially the interaction with this ridge. So what models have been going back and forth on is the strength of this ridge right here, especially across this part. We have our we have our Greenland high kind of right here, but then we also have our ridge over the Midwest and plains, and the connection in between that. Sorry, trying to delete that. And then how much is there able to get to be a weakness in this ridge is what's going to be key as well. Obviously, we have this big time weakness right here. There's an easy path for this storm to go out. Easy path. But models have been going back and forth on the strength and the weakness of the ridge that I just showed you. Which I don't know why it's not showing in that run. No, I'll extend it a little bit farther. And we're right around here at this point. Models have been going back and forth, depending on the strength of the shortwave. You can see, the strength shortwaves become significantly stronger. It's been there for some runs and then it goes away kind of, and then it's come back and it's been pretty consistent over the last, day or so, which has helped given a path for the storm to head out to sea. But eventually, it's going to become connected, and it's going to want to at some point. But if this storm, for some crazy, I have to list out every possible scenario, just that could happen. These aren't the likely ones. I told you, we have this big weakness in the ridge here. Easiest path for this storm is just boop, slide out and maybe pinwheel a little, or try to not even pinwheel, because this is a pinwheel. So I guess that's what malls have in advertising, something like that eventually. But attempt that pinwheel. It's something like that. That's where I didn't even draw that as well as I wanted to. that, something like that. That's what's been advertised a lot on a lot of these model runs, and that's probably the easiest solution. It is the easiest solution to happen based on the strength of the ridge to the west, especially. Um, RAs are as high over here. These contours have been shifting back throughout the week, thanks to this little shortwave strengthening. Just push this ridge out of the way, and with that happening, it's led for this easier out to sea path. But if something crazy were to happen, here's how something crazy could happen. Theoretically, this little western track that we've seen today, if it stays long enough over Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, and it gets really, really, the low level and the mid level center become really displaced vortex, and it gets ripped apart almost, and it has to strengthen a lot, and it starts sliding into the Bahamas, and it's really slows down and it takes its time. If this trough misses, all bets are off after that. It's completely new track. It's just it would have to take such a failure in the models for something like that to happen, which is why it's not likely at all. But that's probably what you're one of two ways right now that you could get a U.S. landfall hit. What I just explained to you is about as crazy as it can get, which is the good news for the U.S. This doesn't. It's not. It's not likely that we get any hit. And at this point, it's like, okay, old news. We've been seeing this on models, but I'm just trying to relay, just from a meteorological perspective, every possible scenario that we could see, because there's been a lot of crazy stuff that's happened before, and we are still like 6 days out, five, yeah, five and a half, five from any potential. I mean, if it really were to really slow down, it would be more like six. But yeah, so it would take some chaos. It would take some big time chaos for there to be any kind of U.S. landfall threat, which is the good news. Bad news is Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico are going to take a pretty hefty hit, have taken, and are going to continue to take. Take another look at satellite. Again, if yeah, there's been some people in here, so if you have questions, feel free to ask. Um, whether they're meteorological. I don't know everything. I'm not a genius, so I can't go in depth to a ridiculous extent, but I know a bit. It looks like the eye is actually warming a little bit. It's interesting. I wonder if that's just a little bit of dry air getting in. Can I pause it? I can pause it. Beautiful. So if I stop it in at the end, you can see some dry air is working into the core, which is probably preventing this from doing any rapid intensification. But we still got cloud tops, minus 70, minus 80 degrees Celsius that are wrapping. But you can see the eye maybe warming a little bit right here, but also this dry slot makes me think I drew way too much. This little dry slot entering the core here makes me wonder, is that just dry air getting into it? I do have this linked on YouTube as well, so technically you can watch the stream on YouTube. if you preferred YouTube over Twitter. You know, I've had some people watch on YouTube as well. I just upload there because I post a lot of content. Did post all my content on YouTube in terms of videos. See, has Recon been in there recently? It looks like they had a little bit of a northwest tick there at the end. Are they still in there? Yeah, they're still in the storm. So it looks like we had a little bit of a west northwest tick. But look how far south it dropped. I mean, we saw this. Even if it does this, or no, that's not accurate. That's still a lot of time over land. No, this will be key too. Does it does it get here? Does it avoid this extended period of landfall? There will probably still be some land friction here, which can actually benefit sometimes, but it can also not, depending on where it is in relation to land. Or does it stay on land longer, which will have a say in how long it stays weaker as it comes off the Dominican Republic. Sorry, I was trying to finish my thought and read comments. Um, yeah, we can take a look at it. 500. I mean, I guess we can take a look at just current weather. We had some severe weather tonight over Iowa. I was following that a little bit, but wasn't ridiculously interesting. A couple of tornado warnings, but nothing out of the ordinary. Some sig hail, I think, too. Let's play it out. This is where we'll be wintertime. This is where we'll be working. This is where we'll be working from in the wintertime. And we won't be seeing any of that. We won't be seeing any of that on the 500 charts. I can promise you that, unless something crazy happened. Yeah, so here, if this were wintertime, this wouldn't be exactly a cutter, but this would just be a miss. So basically, looks like we had a closed off upper level low right here. That's going to swing by this trough, and it's just not able to dig down deep enough. If this we were looking at this wintertime, like, it's just not able to dig down deep enough for us to be a real threat. So this would probably swing by on the backside, and we just get some cold air at the end. Yeah. Until the trough starts to get more vertical, it's too late. It's too late, and even this is a little bit disconnected from the whole trough. It's not really connected all that well. The stream interaction. That's not. It's not even a proper term. I'm just tired. So yeah. So let's let some cold air come in for sure on the backside. We probably see some. We'd be looking at, if this were like December or something, it'd be like teens during the night or something. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna get pretty chilly. Looks like the high is only going to be in the upper 50s and 60s next Friday, this Friday. Yeah, but I'm telling you, I told you, the Midwest and Plains they're gonna be hot. They're gonna be hot this week. They will be hot. I mean, look at those temps. They're gonna be scorching this week. And that's going to match up. Guess where our high pressure is? Yep. What do you know? It doesn't take a genius to figure that out, but when you're looking at all these different charts and you're trying to match them up with how they relate to the storm at hand, you figure some stuff out in terms of weather across the other region. I guess we look here at California. Is this that same? Yes. I mean, California's got that cut off low. It looks like that just wants to stay pat through this weekend. It should be. It'll probably be pretty cold and stormy this weekend in California. This week in California, if it stays like that. It's the last of the heat wave. It looks like. The heat wants to come back. Not as bad though. Hmm. I don't know. Might that I might be trying to warm this eye wall's possibly. Let's see. Slow it down. No, but can you not slow down this loop? I gotta make my own. Oh my god. I don't want to make it. I don't want to make a GIF. Let's take a look. I'm curious if this is. Um. Oh, it's gonna make me mother. That's stupid. You should be able to make your own loop on this with slower frame rate. But I don't know that eye looks like it's possibly trying to warm, and then that eye wall looks like it's trying to wrap around possibly. But at the same time, you can see the dry air trying to work in. This is important for not Puerto Rico as much, but wind wise for Dominican Republic. I know we got some storm chasers here around the Punta Cana area. Josh Morgan's down there. He's living it out right now on the edge of that. He's probably just outside the eye wall because the storm's been staying pretty pat. It hasn't been moving too much. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of some of I know a lot of these people more they'll watch it just after so they can um skip through a lot of stuff where I pause or something or etc. Or they'll even watch it the next morning. They like to do that more because I stay up too late for them. We get a new wrap around the center. That looks like where it was. It looks like this thing's starting to head west northwest now. We kind of figured that, but it's one thing to figure that it's gonna happen, and it's another thing to actually see it happen. I'm curious what they get for what they get here. Still around 70 knots. No, this thing's probably more like an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane, but difference is negligible. It may have just not passed through the strongest part. I mean, it doesn't look like the vortex is that tilted. You can see here, boom, ooh. No, we still want one bigger. Come down here and here, but then you also have, uh, and then here in yellow, your vortex here and here. So it looks like it's relatively stacked at this point, and it was last pass too. So the vortex is not that tilted, so that means shear isn't impacting the system significantly right now. But you can see the temp, in the eye. The eye isn't clear all that much. Uh, um, you look for the temp to rise in the eye, and you look for the dew point to go down. And the bigger the separation typically tells you how much the eye is cleared out at this point. But it looks like there is a little bit of warming in the eye. Temperature's up a little bit from last pass. I mean, I go, oh, whoa, whoa, even there, that was terrible. I drew that up a little bit. Right about here, it's a little bit warmer. Looks like it's a couple degrees warmer than it was last time. Dew points down a little bit as well. But yeah, so it looks like the eye is starting to clear. It maybe just a little bit, possibly get better organized here. The system is pretty stacked. It's you can see the low level, middle level center. They appear to be pretty stacked at this point. So shear is not really all that big of an issue at this point. Um, shear is not all that big of an issue, and it seems more. Um, though there's still some dry air potentially getting into the center here, which I was trying to figure out with this loop, the satellite loop here. Can even take. I mean, it looks like the eye is starting to wrap around. It looks like the eye is starting to clear on satellite too. This is an interesting development here. If this thing really intensifies just before landfall, that would not be good. That would not be good. We don't need a Cat 2 right before landfall. It looks like it's starting to get its act together. Can take a look on radar here. It's a bit far away still. I know you can't see on the screen, but I'm looking at my own radar. It's relatively close to a landfall. Yeah, but it looks like this thing is starting to head west northwest. Wobbles are still important to watch for though. Just also watch for some wobbles. Yeah, this thing's intensifying down to 980 in the latest pass. What we get 979 now. Matter of fact, we'll tweet that out. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Did that not? You gotta be kidding me. It's all right. We'll screenshot it. Try to get in the Weather Nerds logo. We can credit them. All right. Well, looks like not too many people in here anymore, so I guess we'll call it a stream. Keep it a little bit shorter than the other ones. I don't mind doing these. I still, waiting for the mic to come in, obviously, but um, I like doing this. I got nothing better to do at the moment. I'm usually busier during the days, and then during the night, I just use that, or later in the night, and then just use that time to, look at the weather if it's interesting and relax a little bit. So wintertime will definitely be fun for sure. During the winter, we'll be able to, go through, really everything. We can do these streams pretty regularly, even if there isn't a lot going on. We can talk about, the potential for potential timelines and patterns that we'll be looking at in the winter. Because, really, like within like 3 to 4 week ranges, you can only do so much. But like, when you get into that 2 to 3 week time frame, we'll be able to look a lot closer at a lot of Judah Cohen stuff. He's very involved in the polar vortex, so we'll be able to go into those, his discussions, and look at some of his stuff that he talks about, because he's really a bright mind when it comes to that stuff, and that does impact the winter weather, that we get as well, because we look at a lot of times, we're looking at all these, like La Nina, El Nino. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. It does, but it doesn't. It does because that will set the stage and affect, pattern for every particular storm we get. But at the end of the day, if we get the right pattern and we can get the polar vortex to set up where we need it, and we can get like 3 storms in a 3 week span, that can like just really, that's what can help make or break your winter. So it doesn't. It's La Nina and El Nino become less important, and it's more of the singular setups you get for particular snowstorms. And in the grand scheme of things, El Nino and La Nina can influence that, obviously, but that becomes less important when you're looking at storm tracks. The more important stuff is, you, what are we looking at for our ridging in the west? That's the more important stuff. What's the setup? What's the depth of this trough? Do we have a negative NAO at this moment? What's the MJO looking like? Those are things that we look at, and I think are a little bit more undervalued, as opposed to, the grand scheme of things. A lot of people like to make these winter outlooks in August and September based on whether it's La Nina or El Nino, and that just doesn't really apply at the end of the day to your hometown when it comes to winter weather forecasting. So we'll be able to look at a lot of those stuffs, and I'm just excited. Excited. Should be. Hopefully we can get Mother Nature to cooperate, and then we can have some fun on these streams for sure. But I guess to recap it, if you know anybody in Puerto Rico and in the Dominican Republic, especially Eastern Dominican Republic, tell them, if you can even get access to them, just make sure, that they're staying safe, staying above ground, even though it's probably windy. If you're flooding and you have 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, probably the safest spot for you still to be is above ground, because um, you you can't you got a better chance of of living, uh, above ground than you do of drowning, even if it is windy. That sounded maybe a little stupid, but it's true. But we'll watch. Again, the most important thing is how far overland does this go. Obviously we see the center clearing out now. It's pretty evident this thing's probably about to take off. We'll see how much it can before landfall, but it's trying to take off. Do we get this thing, just keep going what it's doing here, go through here, and not really do that much? Or does this thing, do we see another western wobble or something, and this thing has to go over through here too until it comes out? That's the biggest thing we're looking at. So hopefully you'll have a good night, and we'll see if we can do more streams about Fiona coming up this week as well. If it's we're talking about, even if it's not going to hit somewhere significant land, we can potentially do some streams. If it's becoming a really intense major hurricane, we can potentially do some streams, just looking at the satellite and breaking down some of the cool features, that it looks like in this storm. So there's definitely this I take a shot and say this probably won't be the last stream we do on Fiona, but even if there's no U.S. impacts, which there likely won't be at this point, which is good news. Um, we can just break down some of the meteorological, Jesus, meteorological aspects of this storm. That was a tongue twister. Um, but yeah, so hopefully I'll have a good night and peace.